Denver's Magic, and today it's gymnastics in the spotlight. Today we're featuring 1988 Olympic all-around finalist Lance Ringnauld and Brandy Johnson, who finished best among the all-around competitors at the Olympic Games. She is America's future. The top gymnast from the Big Eight is Patrick Kirksey. He finished first in the all-around competition at the recently held Big Eight Championships. Of the 1989 mixed pairs, Wendy Bruce teamed up with Li Jing of China for an unbeatable combination. Conrad Voorsanger, currently in 9th place in the national team, is from Stanford. He is looking to climb in the rankings. Today is our third show, and meeting head-to-head is Lisa Panzironi and Elisabeth Crandall. On the men's side in this competition, it is Brad Hayashi against Conrad Voorsanger. Conrad Voorsanger, the high-flying tumbler, is from the Pac-10. He finished for Stanford in first place in the all-around competition. He is on a roll, and today his quest for the gold continues in Denver, Colorado. The Total Sports Network and the United States Gymnastics Federation presents the 1989 U.S. Challenge. Today we are focusing on show number 3, where it will be Lisa Panzironi against Elisabeth Crandall on the women's side and Brad Hayashi against Conrad Voorsanger on the men's side. Welcome to the Denver Coliseum, where we have our third show in a series of 11 Friday nights of gymnastics here on ESPN. Hello, everyone. I'm Leandra Riley, and joining me in this telecast is Olympic gold medalist Bart Connor. And Bart, in this telecast, we really have youth against experience. On the women's side, it's Elisabeth Crandall against Lisa Panzironi.
Today's competition really matches up the junior national team members against the senior national team members. Elisabeth Crandall is a bright young star. She's been 2 years on the junior national team, and Lisa Panzironi has been 3 years on the senior national team. She's more experienced competitively.
Actually, the same story holds true on the men's side. Conrad Voorsanger, he's in college. He's going up against a youthful Brad Hayashi.
And Brad is very talented. He can do a lot of big tricks, but he's very inexperienced on a competitive format in a big national meet. Conrad, on the other hand, is coming off of a very big NCAA season at Stanford.
All right, when we come back, we will meet youth against experience. Who will prevail in the 1989 U.S. Challenge? Stay with us to find out. We are back in Denver, Colorado for the 1989 U.S. Challenge. If you missed our first 2 shows, well, here's who survived. Brandy Johnson and Margaret Hewlett both survived their competitions in the first round. And now we are looking at Lisa Panzironi and Elisabeth Crandall looking to take on either Dundas or Hagberg. On the men's side, Lance Ringnauld and Kyle Asano were the winners of our first 2 shows. We are now in the third show, and this is Conrad Voorsanger against Brad Hayashi. They'll face the winner of Mark Warburton and Drew DiStefano. We are beginning with men's floor exercise. This is Conrad Voorsanger. Because the men compete on 6 apparatus, we will not see any women for the time being. Women only compete on 4 apparatus. We will be following the Olympic order. So Conrad Voorsanger is up first on floor. He'll be followed by Brad Hayashi, also on the floor exercise event.
His first tumbling run is a straddled side 1 3/4 flip. Very nicely done. Good high tumbling. Conrad's coming off a really big year. He was the Pac-10 all-around champion. Oh, trouble there on that second pass. A little short on that 1 1/2 twisting backflip to the punch front. He won the all-around in the Pac-10s this year and really seems to be coming into his own because he has good style and he's very explosive. Although he's only been on the national team 1 year, I think he has a great future as a strong competitor for the U.S. team.
Conrad Voorsanger is 20 years old, competes at Stanford.
Tuck double back. Very nice landing. Good dismount. It's too bad he had trouble at the end of that second pass because otherwise that was an excellent routine.
Conrad Voorsanger from Stanford University, where he's coached by Sal Hamada. And This is his first year on the senior national team, although he's been in gymnastics about 10
This move was made famous by Li Yuezhu from the Chinese team. Look at tremendous lift as he does 1 3/4 flips in straddled side position while he's in the air. Really nicely done. Now here's where he had trouble. He does the front step out, round off, back handspring, back 1 1/2, and he's a little short and a little low, so that punch front was just not able to make it.
9.20.
This is a very impressive dismount. However, he really gets standing up very quickly, gets his chest up and over, and he really plants the landing. Good finish.
Conrad Voorsanger of Stanford receives a 9.20 for that performance on the floor. He is now followed by Brad Hayashi. Brad lives in Irvine, California. He is coached by Ron Howard. He is just 17 years old. He's still in high school.
So let's watch Brad Hayashi.
Brad is very explosive on floor. He's a really outstanding tumbler, so if he's going to gain some ground on Conrad, he could do it right here. Watch this first tumbling run. Layout double. Oh! He put his hands down, which is a major mistake, but he covered beautifully because he went right into his press to handstand. I don't think he fooled the judges, but he did a good job at covering up. Look at the height on the front step out, through front handsprings to a front with a half in laid out position. He's very explosive. Third tumbling run, round off side.
Quite a bit of dance. A tourjete, full turn pirouette to the corner.
And this is the move called a Y scale. Last tumbling run, tuck double, he laid it back. He really leaned back on the takeoff. He had good height. But it was unusual that he had so much trouble. He's so explosive. I'm surprised he had trouble on floor. In a way, this should have been a really strong event for him, and he blew a good opportunity here. He opens with a layout double. He dumps it back a little bit. He lays back just a little too hard, and so he doesn't get the height. He's got plenty of rotation initially, but because he's so low, he ends up on all fours.
And it is 8.35.
The second pass, a really high front step out, front handspring through to a front flip-flop to a front with a half. It's a good combination.
And that would be Mark Warburg and Rudy.
And the score for Brad Hayashi, 8.35. So now after one rotation, he trails Conrad Voorsanger by 0.85. We'll be back in a moment. Conrad Voorsanger leads Brad Hayashi by 0.85. The scores are 9-2 to 8.35. We're about to see the women compete on their first event. Again, following the Olympic order, women start on the vault. And you are looking at Lisa Panzironi. She will execute 2 vaults. Each vault will be scored separately. The higher scores are the ones that will be used.
Lisa's been on the senior national team for 3 years, and she's been all over the world with major international events.
Tell her before she goes back on the vault.
Here's her first vault. She gets 2. Nice job. That was a good vault. She was having lots of trouble in warm-up, getting onto the horse and getting a good rebound. That's the best she's done it all day. Good thing she saved it for the meet. Round off, she goes back on. Good solid push. Tremendous distance. She pulls her legs a little bit. She didn't need to do that. But because she didn't have really good confidence from the warm-up vaults, I think she thought she would have been in trouble, but she did a nice job.
She got a 9.7 for that first vault.
Now we move over to her second.
Lisa Panzironi competes for Parkettes. Her coach, Bill Strauss, and of course Donna Strauss, his wife, they both coach at Parkettes, but Bill is here today.
Just a little short. Still, I think her first vault was very good, and she'll be pleased with that score because she didn't get quite the solid push that she needed on her second vault. Watch what happens here. She does round off. She's onto the horse, but her arms are a little bit bent, and she's a little scrunched into the horse a little bit. And, of course, if you don't really get a good tight position and a tight rebound off the horse, it's hard to force the height and the distance that you need to complete this.
Needless to say, the 9.7 is the score that will be used. Lisa Panzironi, 9.7. And now Elisabeth Crandall will vault. She likes to be called Liz.
Originally from
She, too, is very young, just 14 years of age. She was born in Sacramento, still lives there. She competes for the Desert Devils. Her coach is Stormy Eaton.
Yeah, in fact, right now she's living down in Tempe, of course, working with Stormy Eaton at the Desert Devil School. She is a very bright young girl and an exciting young gymnast. Nice job. Once again, she was having trouble in warm-ups on that same ball.
Her hand placement on that was a little too much to the board side to me.
Well, you know, she's been having all kinds of problems with the consistency. You're right. Watch what happens with her hands. She just barely gets them up onto the horse. And, of course, she does a good job at pulling the vault around. She didn't attempt to do it layout, as we just saw Panzironi do. She signaled to the judges that she was going to do this Yurchenko vault in the tucked position. And you can see she has a couple of form breaks, and she isn't quite as high as she needs to be. But she's pretty pleased because she had plenty of trouble in warm-ups. I think that was a good vault for her, and she knows it.
There you see the score, 9.625. I think she got most of her height from her thumbs. That's about all that was on top of the horse. Let's see if she can get her hand placement a little bit better.
Oh, that's a better one. Yeah. Sure. Very nice job. She relaxed on that vault, got onto the board, really in good, solid position. As you mentioned, she got a good, solid rebound off the horse. Good, clean job. Round off, back handspring. A little bit higher placement with the hands, of course. That allowed her to keep her legs a little tighter together, better form. And, of course, then she doesn't have to worry about just making it. She can start spotting the floor and concentrating on sticking the landing, not just surviving through the vault. She looked much more comfortable on that one.
And Liz Crandall received a 9.70 for her second vault. Obviously, the higher score is the one she'll carry. And now we have a deadlock score between Panzironi and Crandall. They both have 9.7. Now let's go back to the men. They are ready to compete. On the pommel horse, Brad Hayashi's up first. Conrad Voorsanger will follow.
In order to keep this competition close, Brad is going to have to do a good job here. He really had trouble on his opening event floor, where he normally scores really well. So he's going to have to pull up some ground here on an event that he isn't necessarily known to make a lot of points on. There's the single leg work. Those two scissors are required. He needs a little more elevation over the horse. Oh, he shouldn't have given up there. He was doing fine.
Maybe that's being 17.
Well, certainly that's one of the things we're able to witness here, is that these kids are young and they have bright futures ahead of them, and it's tough. When I was 17, I made all kinds of mistakes on simpler elements. He got away with some of the tougher skills in the early part of the routine, but he picked up into a move called a Moore, which is very basic, and he had trouble. It looked like he knew he was going to have to scramble through that routine from the first part, and it was like he was waiting for, okay, when are the problems going to happen?
Brad Hayashi was already 0.85 in the hole going into this rotation.
Yeah, he was in really low. Looks like he got his hand placement such that he was going to do a move actually called a Bailey, but he got leaning way over the front of the horse, and it takes a lot of fight to be able to stay on there. He will do better on pommel horse in the future, I'm sure.
Back in 1981, ESPN televised the first U.S. challenge. Of course, then it was called single elimination. These names should sound very familiar to you. Scott Johnson, Jim Hartung, Tim Daggett, Phil Cahoy, Peter Vidmar. These are all gymnasts who competed in this single elimination format. Now you see the score for Brad Hayashi, 8.30. Of course, all those gymnasts went on to become Olympians for the United States. So when you look at these young men, think 1992. This is the pool of talent from which the U.S. will draw. Conrad Voorsanger.
Really nice mount as he does flares and travels across the horse and back down. This is a good exercise so far. He's very quick. That's a good combination. A handstand down to a scissor full turn. although he's a little rushed, he has a very aggressive style, which is impressive. A few minor form deductions. Good clean dismount.
Conrad Voorsanger competes for Stanford University. He just came off the Pac-10 championships, and he finished for Stanford. They finished very close in the team competition, just behind UCLA.
This is good work. He does flares, and you can see without using the pommels, he's traveled all the way across the horse, turns back around, and this time with the pommels, travels back to the other end. He's very comfortable in the flared position. You can see spreads those legs, cranks it up to a handstand, does a full pirouette, and dismounts through the middle. Nice ending.
Conrad Voorsanger gets a 9.65, easily defeating Brad Hayashi in the pommel horse event. We'll be back with more in just a moment. Welcome back to Denver, Colorado. I'm Leander Riley, along with Olympian Bart Connor. And absolutely nothing was resolved after one rotation on the women's side. That is because Lisa Panzironi and Liz Crandall both received identical 9.70s for their vault. They are moving to their second rotation, which will be the uneven parallel bars. On the men's side, 2 rotations. And Conrad Voorsanger is easily outdistancing Brad Hayashi by a 2.2 margin. Right now, the men are ready to compete on their third event, which is the still rings.
I wish Brad were making a better run of it. He's a really talented young gymnast. He made some silly errors, and as you mentioned earlier, errors that a junior gymnast will make. We've all made, and yet he has a bright future, and certainly Conrad is an outstanding gymnast. But Brad could have made it a real close competition if he didn't make some silly errors early on. But we're still interested in seeing the kinds of gymnastics qualities that have made Brad one of the top juniors in the U.S. to this point.
Well, we saw the same thing happen in an earlier show. One gymnast had difficulty on the pommel horse and then later rallied to come back and win it. So it's not over until the 6th rotation.
Really a nice mount for Conrad. He did a kip to an L cross. That position's called an L. Just looks just like an L. Press to a straddle flange and a giant to a handstand. Whoa, a little trouble controlling that handstand.
See, and all these little things will start opening the door if Brad can capitalize on it.
He said good swing work, good strength work. Oh, and an excellent dismount. That's a double backflip with a full twist in sort of a laid-out piked position. I'm sure he wanted to do it perfectly laid out. He piked a little bit, but needless to say, that was a great dismount. This is the flange, a straddle flange, and a giant right to the handstand. Now, he needs to lock this out, but you can see the cables bounce around a little bit. He doesn't quite hold the handstand before he bails for the next skill. He needs to show control there. This is the bail for the dismount. Really great. Full twisting double back.
Good job by Conrad Voorsanger. Again, his margin of lead right now is 2.20, so he can relax just a little bit, but not too much. For those of you that saw show number 2, Kyle Asano was trailing throughout 4 rotations and came back in the last 2 events to win it and advance into the next round.
I think what will be an important test here for Brad Hayashi is that he has had trouble early on, and it'll be interesting to see how he reacts and whether he can rally. And he has 4 events yet to go, and if he can put it together and finish up on a strong day, that will be a good sign. I think the Gymnastics Federation is looking to see how these young gymnasts handle the kind of pressure of national meets like this, even when things are going poorly.
There you see the number, 9.45 for Conrad Voorsanger. And now Brad Hayashi will compete on the still rings.
Let's pull to an inverted hang. Back uprise handstand. A little short on that handstand. Power down to a move called an Olympic cross. You don't see a lot of those anymore. It's really a nice move. Kip to another cross. This is good so far. He's a young man. He's only 17 years old, and yet he's showing good strength moves, which is something that the Gymnastics Federation and the judges are really looking for. bars, a front giant. He really has a problem in his handstand. He can't really lock out his handstands, but he can really swing. He did a good dismount there, a little short on the landing, but that was a full twisting double back.
Brad Hayashi, 17 years of age, born in Newport Beach, California, currently lives in Irvine, California.
He lowers right here to a cross, and you see he turns sideways. That's the old style rings, and it really is great stuff. I love all those old strength moves. Really, really interesting looking. This is a giant over the top, good swing, full twisting double. He opens up just a little early and slaps a hand down, which will be a significant deduction.
Score for Brad Hayashi, 8.75. Conrad Voorsanger, you'll recall, 9.45 for the still rings. Now we are ready to move to the second event for the women, the uneven parallel bars. Liz Crandall, who is training now in Tempe, still calls Sacramento, California home, even though she's living away from home to train with Stormy Eaton.
She used to train in the Bay Area, in fact, and one of her heroes is Tracy Talavera from the women's team. Tracy also spent some time coaching her, and you can see some of Talavera's contributions because Tracy was known for her bars, and Elisabeth is very exciting on the unevens. Nice giants. Beautifully high reverse hecht, and the straddle back to the low bar. He has to show elements on both the high bar and the low bar. Oh, and she fights that handstand. Good job at keeping control.
She pulled that thing back. That move defied gravity. She was beyond the point of pulling it back and somehow pulled it back.
Yeah, she's a fighter, and that's impressive to see. Watch this move right here. It's the back straddle over the bar, reverse hecht, or a Tkachev, invented by the Soviet gymnast Alexander Tkachev, for the men's high bar, and the women have been doing it on the uneven bars for 6 or 8 years now. It's a very exciting addition to the uneven bars event. She really cowboys that tuck double back. In fact, her coach told me she can do a triple into the pit, and maybe one day we'll see the first women do a triple off bars.
The score for Liz Crandall, 9.40. Again, she and Lisa Panzironi both received 9.7s for their vault. So now whatever Lisa Panzironi gets on the uneven parallel bars will determine who's the leader after 2 rotations, unless, of course, she too gets a 9.4.
Lisa trains in Allentown, Pennsylvania with the traditionally strong parquets program. Nice release. That's the same release we saw Liz Crandall use. And another move, a front between the bars or a Jaeger flip in combination, 2 releases in a row, is a very important element. Cast to handstand. This is a good exercise. And a pike double. She slung it out a little bit, but she pulled it around and saved the landing.
So you're saying at the end she was a little too horizontal, needed a little more vertical?
I thought she kind of peeled off, as we say in gymnastics, but she did a really good job at controlling it. This is the reverse hecht. Perfect form, huh? Nice toe point, good straight legs, and right in the middle, a Jaeger flip. Straddle front. This is the dismount. She's going to do a pike double back. And she lets go just a hair early, and she really carried forward. But she pulled the rotation around and did a nice job handling that.
Lisa Panzironi needs to get better than a 9.40 if she's to take the lead after 2 events. And there are 2 events remaining for the women after the uneven parallel bars. They still have the balance beam, and of course that'll be followed by floor exercise. The men still have 3 rotations remaining: parallel bars, vaulting, and the high bar. The score for Lisa Panzironi is 9.575, and by a 1.175 margin, she's our leader.
Yeah.
Back to our continuing coverage of the 1989 U.S. Challenge. Conrad Voorsanger leads Brad Hayashi 28.3 to 25.4 for a 2.90 advantage. On the women's side, Lisa Panzironi is ahead of Liz Crandall, 19.275 to 19.1, or a 0.175 margin. Right now we are ready for the balance beam, which is the 3rd event of 4 for the women, while the men will move to vaulting for their 4th event of 6. The This is Lisa Panzironi, the 16-year-old from Lima, Ohio, currently lives in Columbus, Ohio, but is in training now in Allentown, Pennsylvania.
Lisa has a real wealth of national and international experience. She's been on the senior national team for 3 years, and her competitor, Elisabeth Crandall, is still yet a junior, but she's been on the junior national team for 2 years. So in a way, it's kind of the seniors versus the juniors here. Swing through layout, nicely done. There's a full turn, that's a requirement, of course. Here she's setting up for an acro series, a series of flips, back handspring to a layout. The judges are looking for several things. Leaps like that. They need to see a combination of leaps or a gymnastics series. They need to see an acro series, which we saw earlier for the back handspring through to the layout.
That, of course, is referring to acrobatic in terms of tumbling in this acro series.
They also need to see a mixed series, which includes both an acrobatic move and a gymnastic move. So far, so good. And a round-off tuck double back. Great dismount. It looked easy for her, and that's still one of the more difficult dismounts being done.
She did have a slight hesitation on her mount, but after that, it was very smooth sailing.
This is the back handspring. Right to a layout. Does a good job at keeping that baby on the beam. And then here's the dismount. This is excellent. Round off, good lift. Excellent form in the air, even with toes pointed, and that's a very difficult way to go through 2 flips, trying to worry about form. Good job.
Right now, she is ahead of Elisabeth Crandall by a .175 margin, and certainly that performance didn't hurt her at all. As you look now at Liz Crandall, who is waiting for the beam score of Lisa Panzironi.
Score for Lisa Panzironi is now.
Now they're getting ready to announce those numbers. 9.60 for Lisa Panzironi on the balance beam. And now Liz Crandall will mount.
Liz had a big success this past December when she was 7th in the all-around in the very prestigious international invitational, the Chunichi Cup in Japan. She says this is her favorite event. Here's her acro series. Back handspring layout. Switch legs, split leaps.
Take the lead, she needs a 9.8.
Boy, she can do this stuff, although she had a little trouble on that full turn, which is a requirement. She handled this swing through layout beautifully. Aerial, she covered that. I like how she takes her time. She's very powerful, but she doesn't really rush. She takes long, fluid movements. Tuck double. Good job.
4'7" Liz Crandall, the smallest gymnast in the U.S. Challenge this year. Just 14 years of age, only 2 years on the junior national team.
This is a very good series. She does back handspring, and she does this layout, but notice she lands with her feet together on the beam rather than step down as you've seen some of the other competitors do. Watch this dismount, though. In comparison, with some of the others. Look at how wide she pulls those legs apart. She really cowboys. Not the pretty form in the air that you saw from Lisa Panzironi, but it was effective. She made it.
We see a lot of gymnasts cowboy to pull it around to speed the rotation. Is that a deduction for form?
Yeah, and it happens so quickly. Sometimes it's hard for the judges to really get a good fix on how bad the form break was. But the judges are supposed to deduct for that. I don't know that they always do.
9.575, not a big deduction because Liz Panzironi received a 9.60. So the margin of difference is just a little bit greater, but certainly Liz Crandall is still within reach of Lisa Panzironi. Now you are looking at Brad Hayashi, who is getting ready to vault, and the men are allowed to vault only once. So this is it.
Way short on the landing. This is a new vault. I was talking to him in the warm-ups. I said, what are you going to do new in this competition? He said, I have a new vault called a Cuervo. This one in the laid-out position. This is a really difficult vault. There's only a few guys in the world that can do it. I think it just didn't look like he had the kind of power that he needed to do it. Right here, he's pushing like crazy. He kind of sent it out rather than sending it up. If he got a little more height, he might have been able to pull that around.
8.80.
Brad's arch rival from Stanford University.
He's having a rough day, but you know, he's a fine young gymnast, and I think he'll be a great gymnast because he can already do a lot of difficulty. It's just a matter of polishing now.
Conrad Voorsanger going into vault has a 2.90 lead over Hayashi.
Oh, that's a nice looking ball. Pretty springy guy. He kind of bounced out of the landing, never completely had it in control, but he's great form in the air and good height. Watch what happens here. He's going to do a round off on. It's called a Kasamatsu. Good clean form in the air. He really never controlled that landing, which will be a small deduction by the judges. But otherwise, he was very good in the air.
Two events. These two are 2.2 points.
His score for that vault is 9.35. So Conrad Voorsanger has won yet another event from Brad Hayashi. There are 2 events remaining for the men, 1 for the women. Challenge, I'm Leandra Riley along with Bart Connor. Lisa Panzironi leads Elisabeth Crandall as they head into their final event. The margin of difference is just 0.2, so nothing's been resolved here just yet. On the men's side, it is Conrad Voorsanger over Brad Hayashi. Quite a hefty margin of difference here at 3.45. And right now the men are ready to compete in their 5th of 6 events. This is the parallel bars. Only the horizontal bar remains, while the women are waiting to compete on floor exercise in this, their final rotation. First up is Conrad Voorsanger on the parallel bars.
This is his favorite event, and I've seen him warming up here. He has a really great routine. Some interesting skills. Cast support to a pirouette. Good stutz. There's a move called a Diamond-off with an extra quarter turn, and then a glide on the side. Really good combination. Reverse stutz to a straddle cut. He has a good look. He has a nice line in his handstand. He doesn't rush. He has a good feel for the rhythm and allows the... Oh, just short on the dismount. I think he opened up a little early because he had it going beautifully on that pike double back.
That was a great routine until the finish.
This is the Diamond-off with an extra quarter turn, and he goes down the side and then glide kip on the side.
That's a tough glide kick to do in the straddle position.
Right on up to handstand. And then on the dismount, I don't know what happened here. Pike double back, which is one of the more difficult dismounts being done. He has great form, and he might have just opened up a hair early because looked good in the air, but opening up early, of course, will keep him short in rotation.
Conrad Voorsanger receives a 9.45. So you can imagine what he would have gotten had he landed a little bit better. Maybe 9.6, 9.7. Brad Hayashi is up next.
Brad has had a really rough day in the 4 events that he's competed into this point. He's had trouble on all of them. I'd really be interested to see here how he handles the parallel bars. He needs to settle down. I know he's been a little nervous. So far, this is good. Back toss, back toss. Cast, back upright, reverse stutz. Back upright, straddle, cut L. So far, so good. All right, he hit a routine today, and I'm sure he'll be pleased with that effort.
That was a solid performance by Brad Hayashi. An indicator of what he is capable of, and I think his smile tells it all.
Look how strong he is. He's only 17 years old, and the kid is really strong. He's flexible. He's talented. He's going to be a great gymnast. Back toss, back toss. 2 in a row, good combination. He'll clean up his form. He needs a little bit better look and a little bit better line. He kind of rushed this a little bit, but he's a good athlete. He knows how to pull that around, cowboy it, and make the landing. Good job for Brad.
The score he wants to beat on the parallel bars is 9.45. That is what his opponent, Conrad Voorsanger, received. I'm sure he'd like to take him in at least one event. I don't envy the judges in this situation. Although I think basically overall it's a lot easier for the judges to compare gymnast A to, to gymnast B, as opposed to having 12 gymnasts out there and trying to figure out who's who. Not quite good enough to beat Conrad Voorsanger on the parallel bars, but certainly the closest run he's given him, 9.40 versus a 9.45 that Voorsanger received. And now the final appearance by Elisabeth Crandall, floor exercise.
Short on that pike double. Good triple turn. She comes back across the mat with round off back handspring, back dive roll with a half. That's a nice combination. Judges are looking for at least 3 different acrobatic series, and she's accomplishing that here. Finishing up with a double pull.
A fine finish by Liz Crandall, the smallest gymnast in this U.S. challenge at 4 feet 7 inches.
She does a pike double backflip here. Let's see what happens. I think she kind of coasted it. The mat's pretty springy, and I think she thought it was going to be just a little easier than it was. She was pulling it around. I don't know. Maybe she just didn't have the height initially. Wasn't a really strong takeoff. This next run was great, though. This is a tucked 1.5 twist backflip to a round-off full right to a punch front, and she continues through to a round-off back handspring, back dive half. Really good combination. Her last tumbling run was a double twist. In order to be really competitive on the international scale, she's going to need to do double backs there.
Score for Elisabeth Crandall.
But still a clean routine.
Her score is 9.05. The judges, I think, maybe a little harsh for...
Well, that's a major break. That first bobble, when you go down on your knees, that's a major break. So the rest of the exercise was clean and it looked good, but you have a major deduction right from the start.
Lisa Panzironi has led throughout.
And I don't expect that she's going to let up now. This is her favorite event, and she's really a very powerful tumbler.
Well, the margin of difference between these two is not that great. It's just 0.2 of a point. I should change it to 2.0 is the margin of difference. Like decimal mark place.
Walks this opening run. Round off back handspring. Full in pike. Easy. Combination for the second tumbling run.
She cannot afford to fall on any of her tumbling passes.
As we said before, she's been a solid member of the national team for 3 years. In fact, in '88, she was 12th in the all-around in the Olympic final trials, just getting edged off in the Seoul Olympic team.
She needs an 8.9 to win.
She'll have that as she finishes here with a really nice, clean tuck double back. Great routine.
Music from West Side Story, a fine performance by Lisa Panzironi.
Until this point, only 2/10 of...
This is a great opening tumbling run. This is a full twisting double back and a piked flip in the second rotation. Watch this. She pulls her legs around straight and makes it easily.
And Lisa Panzironi on her floor exercise routine just scored.
Her second run showed really good combination tumbling. Round off back handspring whip through to back handspring tuck double back. Look at the form in the air. That's impressive.
And the judges were impressed as well. The score for Lisa Panzironi for her final performance on the floor exercise event, well, there you see it, 9.75. She's the winner. Back, Lisa Panzironi has defeated Elisabeth Crandall. Margin of difference, 9/10 of a point. So Lisa Panzironi will now survive to compete against the winner between Jennifer Hagberg and Cheryl Dundas in a later telecast. On the men's side, Conrad Voorsanger leads Brad Hayashi. Now, they still have one more event to go, so it's still not quite over for the men as the horizontal bar remains.
Horizontal bar. Please welcome back Brad Hayashi.
Well, as we said earlier, Brad had trouble on his first 4 events, and then he hit a really nice parallel bar routine. Let's see if he can finish up strong here on high bar. Oh, he already went over on one skill. Stalled a hop change. He went over the wrong way, but he covered up really well, keeping the exercise moving. Stalled her pirouette. So one arm to a reverse hecht. Oh, he's having a lot of trouble. There's a pirouette, gets back into giants. This move there, that's called an eagle giant swing. One of the things the judges are looking for. They're called L grip or dorsal grip moves. The judges need to see one of either of those. Here's his dismount. Very nice layout double. Unfortunately, he had a really rough day.
He did have a great set on the parallel bars. Unfortunately, there's 6 events in men's gymnastics, and it was just not Brad Hayashi's day.
By the way, immediately after the end of this
His one-arm release move, he does right here. One arm, and he's going to straddle back over the bar. He was attempting a one-arm reverse hecht, and he was pretty crooked on it, and certainly not high enough. And as you can see, kipping back up into the giants and pirouette was a hard transition. That's a very pretty layout double the back. Beautiful line in the air. Nice tight arch, which I think is very pretty.
And they have just posted the score for Brad Hayashi on the horizontal bar, 8.60. So Conrad Voorsanger can relax a little bit as he steps up to compete.
For the back upright, stalled her, hop, pirouette. Stalled her, hop, full pirouette. Another full pirouette. There, once again, are the eagle giants. Here's the release move. Nice high ginger, which is a back flip with a half twist. Look at the speed. He's picking up for the dismount. A double full out in a tuck position. Good meet for Conrad Voorsanger.
He only needed about 5.15, and he'll certainly get much more than that to defeat Brad Hayashi.
This is really nice here. Look at how high he is. Perfect form, and he catches the bar exactly where he wants to be, 1 arm's distance away. Good speed here for the dismount. He's going to do 2 flips and 2 twists. The first flip is straight, and the second flip, he cranks 2 twists in the tuck position. Very difficult dismount.
Score is being posted now for Conrad Voorsanger.
We're waiting now for the score on Conrad Voorsanger. 8.6 is the score he wants to beat, and the score he gets is 9.35. Voorsanger has defeated Hayashi. We'll be back. Voorsanger easily outdistanced Brad Hayashi 56.45 to 52.20, a 4.25 margin of difference. So Conrad Voorsanger will advance to the next round. On the women's side, it was a little bit closer, but Lisa Panzironi won it by 0.9 of a point, 38.625 to 37.725. And right now, Lisa and Conrad are with our Bart Connor.
Congratulations to our winners. First of all, Conrad and Lisa. Lisa, it was a close competition, tied after the first event, and then you started to pull away slowly. Did you know you had it won by the time you got to floor?
Yes, pretty much. I was just concentrating on hitting my next event, so that's about what I did.
What do you think of this head-to-head competition? Is it nerve-wracking?
Not too bad. I was just thinking about what I had to do, and I just went for it.
Congratulations. Good luck in the next round.
Thanks.
And Conrad, you kind of ran away with the competition right from the start. And I noticed, I saw you warm up, and I've watched you throughout the day. You seem to really be coming into your own now. Why is that now? Why is it really happening for you now?
Well, I'm starting to feel a lot more comfortable. I've been doing a lot of routines. I have a new coach named Tong Fei, who's a world champion somewhere along the line. And he's making us doing so many sets, and I'm in the middle of NCAA season. So we do a lot of routines with a lot of pressure. So I feel a little bit more in my element now than I think I did at Winter Nationals.
And your confidence has to be soaring because you're coming off a Pac-10 win.
Well, that was a good meet, and this is a good meet too. But I don't think my confidence is soaring. I think I'm just trying to, you know, keep a level head, mostly.
Well, good luck in the next round, Conrad.
All right, thank you very much.
Leanne?
Thank you very much, Bart. As I said, there are 6 first-round matches. 3 have been completed. We'll be back with some final thoughts after these messages. The field of competition for the women has now been trimmed from 12 down to 9. As you can see, Lisa Panzironi has defeated Elisabeth Crandall. She survives to the next round. On the men's side, Conrad Voorsanger over Brad Hayashi. He, too, will advance to the next round. Voorsanger will face the winner of the Warburton-Di Stefano matchup.
Well, this competition, you know, is sort of the seniors versus the juniors. Voorsanger has more experience, and I think that showed today against Brad Hayashi. In the women's competition, the same with Lisa Panzironi. Elisabeth Crandall made some mistakes that a junior gymnast will make.
A reminder, if you want to see the opponents of Conrad Voorsanger and Lisa Panzironi, well, then watch May 26 at 8 p.m. Eastern Time, because Mark Warburton will take on Drew DiStefano. Cheryl Dundas will take on Jennifer Hagberg. Those are the future opponents of Panzironi and Voorsanger. For Bart Connor, I'm Leandra Riley saying so long from Denver, Colorado.